Hi, I am Dustin Pickering from Parrot Literary Corner. You know me, your noble and honest host. Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely convince you. Hey, sports fans! New York Parrot has come out with a great new show for you guys, Sports with Rich. Broadcast time 10 p.m. Tuesday evening. Rich Mancuso with Robert Rizzo as a co-host. Sports with Rich is captivating, informative, and entertaining, and it will pertain to all American sports such as soccer, football, basketball, baseball, athletics, wrestling, you name it. Get rich information from Rich Mancuso on Sports with Rich. Parrot TV, the voice for humanity. Welcome to World Inkers Network. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. And today we have Lisa Tomey. She is a poet, writer, and publisher from Raleigh, North Carolina. She is an editor for Fine Lines and manager of the Poetry Circle of the Garden of Neuro Institute. Her works can be found in several anthologies and literary publications and her own poetry chapbook, Heart Sounds. You can follow her on prolificpulse.blog and prolificpulse.com. Welcome to episode number 294. Lisa, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Dustin. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
It's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about why you got into poetry publishing in the beginning. What prompted you and what got you involved in that?
Well, I noticed that I have a lot of poet friends and writers,
Mm-hmm.
and as a poet myself, I've published in a lot of different journals and such. But I felt like the literary world is it's a long line to wait to get published in.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I saw so much great work out there that was not getting published, and decided to create my own press, Prolific Pulse Press LLC. And in this press, I work closely with the poets and writers, and to try to help them bring forth their best work and develop a real close relationship. And that's the kind of publisher I would want to work with, so I try to be the person that I would want to work with.
Excellent. That's a wonderful experience to work with poets, I think. And I love doing the job myself. I'm also a publisher. So why the title Prolific Pulse?
Well, actually, my goddaughter came up with that name. I was trying to come up with a name for my blog, and I was explaining to her what it was going to be about, and about different things. And she knew that I had published my book Heartbeats, and I wanted something along that same idea of the beat of the heart and that. And so she came up with Prolific Pulse, and that just kind of stuck and just kind of went from there.
Interesting. So did it have any relation to any other work you were doing, like in the medical field or anything like that?
No. My background in that particular field is more in social work.
Okay.
So no, it didn't have anything to do with that. Just more the idea of being prolific and in keeping your hand on the pulse of what's going on.
Fascinating. That's a nice title. I like it. It kind of has that little bit of alliterative value to it. Prolific
Mm-hmm.
Pulse, with the two P's there. And it just has a nice sound to it. So it's really fun to say as well.
Yes.
So
Got a
tell us
lot of
about
good
your,
compliments.
yeah, it's just a great title for a publisher. Tell us a little bit about your poetry collection. I believe it's called Heart Sounds. Um, so
Heart
can you tell us a
sounds.
little bit about how long it took you to write that, and what your some of your themes were in that collection?
Well, it's years in the making. I wanted to put something together that was kind of a flavor of poetry that I've written since I was young on up. And I just went through every poem that I had that I written and polished some of them up. Some of them I tossed to the side until I came up with a small collection. And then I followed along the themes of different types of love and just then I wrote some new poetry as well, and that's how it came about.
So did you publish it yourself, or did you find another publisher?
I did publish it myself. That was my first, well, not my first attempt, but one of my first attempts at self-publishing.
So what difficulties do you have when you first started with publishing your own work? What did you find that was most difficult for you?
Learning how to work with the publishing systems and understanding what was the best size of book to use. If I had to do it over again, I would have made it a smaller book, or I would have maybe made an adult coloring book in it as well. Since I have an artistic background, I could have done that. Like we did with Safe and Brave Space, we ended up making it a combination poetry and adult coloring book. But we just, I think I would have made it more like a 6 by 9 because that's kind of what you could pop in a purse or a backpack or something like that. Carry it easier. So that was the main thing.
Yeah, it can be kind of tricky to decide. They give you so many options. I think 6 by 9 is pretty standard, but they give you like dozens of options. And at least I know from working with KDP, which was Create Space many years ago,
Yes,
they
it
have
was
so many
create
different
space back
options.
then.
Yeah, and they work. They're usually pretty good and easy to work with compared to a lot of others I've noticed, and they don't cost you anything. That's the fun thing. So that's what I like about them is that you can get paid if you sell a book, and it
Mhm.
doesn't cost you anything to really do it, other than putting the book together, your time and effort maybe. So
Yes,
so do you have a team of people you work with as far as the publishing, or do you do everything yourself?
I do everything myself. I guess I'm a little bit of a control freak. I like it to make sure that all systems are under my control, but I just prefer it that way. There are times that I wish I had, someone as a personal assistant. But as we all know in the publishing industry, we're all working on tight budgets. So,
Right. Absolutely. It's very hard to continue publishing sometimes. I had to trim down some of my own work for financial reasons, and it's very tricky. It can be a
mhm.
very difficult obstacle, the money side of things. So, how many authors do you think you've published in the last, few years since you started?
Well, I have one particular author that I've published now about 6 times. And then I have two current that I've published, as well as I have about six coming up by the end of the year, the first part of 2023.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm fairly fresh, fairly new in this. So, I haven't been doing it for a great number of years.
Do you have publishing goals? I mean, like a number of books you want to publish in a year, or do you just, when a book comes your way that you enjoy, you just decide to take it?
Well, I don't like to promote more than one book in a month's time.
Mhm.
When I do like a book launch, I prefer to only do one book launch for that feature person for the month and put a lot of my aggressive work into that particular project, before I move on to the next one. But as you probably know, Dustin, you're always 2 or 3 months ahead of the game anyway. So it's a constant juggling act to
Mhm.
make that happen. So
So when you do book launches, can you tell us about the process there that, on your end, what you do, and maybe give an example of like how one went and what the process was for other people?
Yes, I just recently did a couple of book launches, one for Jill Sharon Kimmelman and the other for Zan Johns, who have both been on this show. And they're both a little bit different, and that's not unusual because it goes along with what the person wants, what the author wants. And so I first try to determine what that is. What do you want your launch to be about? Who do you want to be, introducing you? How many people do you want to read? Do you want them to read your poetry or a mixture, like other people's poetry, their own poetry? And I've gotten, the different ones. For example, Sita Gaia, who is one of my first clients, her father runs a production company, so he produced, did all the background work, so he had that all set up. And then Sita kept it pretty simple and had one of her poet friends introduce her. I did a basic introduction, and then we moved on from there. So, and then, the person that introduced her read her own poetry. So it was just, and it was like a big love fest. I loved it. And that's the way it has been too with Jill and Zan's. It's like everybody comes together. They love these people already. They love their work. And it's just like a big love fest that everybody comes together to celebrate. And one of the things that I started doing with the book launches is have the guest write in the chat some thoughts for that person. And then I save that chat and take out all the junk and then give that to people. And they have been so happy because, in a launch, you're nervous, you're focused on what you're doing, and you don't have time to read a chat and all of that. But after the fact, it just feels so good to see all those supportive words from all these fans of yours. So that's, I probably went off on a little tangent there, but that's kind of what happens with the launch.
Yeah,
I get so excited about them. I love doing them.
Yeah, they're really original concepts there, and especially with like the chats and the, I know that a lot of times, those things, people are talking and stuff in the chats rather than sharing their thoughts on the poets or the process going on. So it's kind of interesting to have, at the end of the day, you have a list of what people have said about you, as you read. That's a very nice little feature there to add to that. So, what are some of the challenges you have balancing your own writing work, that you do for yourself with your publishing and editing jobs as well?
Well, it takes a real discipline to make sure you don't, lose track of your own work, with this like being National Poetry Month. I'm making a real effort to make sure I write a poem every day. And there have been times when I've laid down and like, oops, I didn't write my poem. So I'll write it in an email to myself on my tablet. So then I can say, okay, I wrote my poem for the day. So far I only missed one day. But I try to, I'm in charge of the poetry circle, the Garden Neuro. And so I put up prompts every day for writers, as well as we have another lady, Lisa Boland, who puts up a prompt every week. And so keeping those going, then I need to be the example. If I'm going to put all that out there, I need to be the example. Just like I just finished teaching a course in Poetry 101, well, if I'm going to teach a course, then as a teacher, I need to be the example and write the poetry too. And so when we do activities, I'm writing poetry right along with everybody else. So some of the things I'm involved in keep me on target and getting my stuff done. And also, I'm a morning person, and before the world's really awake, I'm writing. And that's my best time to try to get stuff done because it's kind of quiet. I had a little pocket, and I've had that habit for a long time.
It's good to set a time, and I think it's especially when it's quiet and relaxed, and the atmosphere is balanced, and you feel comfortable in the setting. It's very good to do the writing. I do that too. I usually do mine sort of the late evenings, You know, I get in there and I just start writing a couple of poems here and there. I don't do it every day as much as I used to, but I do quite a bit of writing in the evenings, later in the evenings, like, you know, around 11 p.m. ish, something like
Right.
that. So when you're teaching poetry, what do you find that you learn from interacting with your students, you know, as far as like, you know, the craft of poetry?
I feel like I learn probably as much as they do because I do a lot of research. I do a lot of deep dive. The amount of hours it takes to prepare for an hour and a half of a presentation, it's pretty significant. And I generally spend a good couple of days just getting materials organized and together and reading through things and practicing some things myself to make sure everything's going to go smoothly. Also, sometimes I create videos. I love to create videos, and I'll create videos for either for the class or for launches or different things. But you know, so it takes time to do that and to curate videos that are already out there of different poets and different techniques and that about poetry. Thank goodness for YouTube because that's been a
Mm-hmm.
real help, you know, with that.
I think so. It's good to have resources at your, you know, command that are easy to and accessible.
Yes.
So, do you what do you like to read as far as, you know, poetry and literature? Are some of your favorites to return to?
I kind of like to read things that have to do. I'm not a real big fiction reader. I read a lot of memoir. I'm most interested in the human condition and what you know what's going on, and I pay attention to what's going on in the world, and sometimes poetry comes from that. We're getting ready to publish anthology. This is my second year of doing an anthology. We did Heartbeats last year, and this year we're doing Social Justice Inks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been, you know, read up a lot of that of what people have written, and going through all of those poems to decide the ones that are going to go get published. And then as far as reading poetry, probably I do most of my poetry reading off of the internet. I do, you know, have Nikki Giovanni's book and that, and Joy Harjo's, but I tend to read a lot. I get lost in poets.org and Poetry Foundation. I'll go through there and just read one thing after another. It's just the same as reading a book. And then my Kindle's full of different poetry books, and sometimes when I'm going to sleep at night, I'll read some of that. A lot of them are people that I actually know that write versus famous writers.
Right. You know, to get kind of in, what do you call it? You know, accompanied with your contemporaries. You know, get accustomed to reading their works and you know, getting with their minds, and that's what I was looking for. Acquainted, instead of accustomed. But yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, it's interesting to deal with actual living people that you're face to face with sometimes, as
Yeah, I
opposed to
just
somebody
feel celebrities in this world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you find appealing about, you know, the works of Nikki Giovanni and Joy Harjo, and I mean people like that? What is it that you are drawn to from them?
They're real people. They, you know, I was just watching a video with Nikki Giovanni the other day, and she had the Thug Life tattoo, and
Uh-huh.
she's like, you know, that little Nikki Giovanni talking about how she's a thug, and you know, it was just so funny to me. It's like they're real people. Joy
Mm-hmm.
Harjo is the type of person that you could. I feel like I could sit down and have a cup of coffee with her, and we could have a wonderful conversation. I actually use one of her videos quite a bit in my class, and she wrote I think it's called I Remember, the poem, and I wrote a poem to that. I can connect with her poetry and then write to. I like to take different poets and
Mm-hmm.
write to their poetry, so kind of an
Okay.
interpretation
Well,
and inspiration from that. So yeah.
I actually met Nikki Giovanni in
No.
Austin a few years ago. She was at a poetry conference I was at doing this. She did a lecture, and it's really fascinating. And as you say, she's very
Oh,
human. She was very funny. just amazingly funny and interesting. She talked about her parents and her life, and she told jokes about, she was joking about slavery and sharks, and how sharks had come through from Africa, and she said she made this joke that was kind of a cruel joke, but it was funny. She said every time she hears somebody on the beach getting attacked by a shark, she's like, "Yeah, that's how you get it for slavery," But I met her and I spoke to her very briefly, and just shook her hand and said I enjoyed your talk, and I feel encouraged by it. And then she was staying at the same hotel as me and my friend Zach were there at the poetry conference, and she was just heading back to her. I think she taught at Virginia Tech at the time. I don't know if she's still there or not. She also blurbed one of the books that we published, Feminist Poetry. So the writer there got her to blurb it somehow. It's very nice. And she seems like a very nice person. She was very sophisticated, but she was also very accessible when I spoke to her. She was very nice and friendly.
Yeah.
She even told a joke. She told this joke too. She said, I know you guys think I'm friendly and a great person, but guess what? I'm not. She's a trip.
I love
and
it.
I do remember talking quite a bit of her talking about Tupac and the Thug Life tattoo and all that too. That was a big part of her lecture. It was very nice. It was wonderful, to see her and talk with her. So we're going to take a brief break, but we'll be back, and we're going to bring up one of your own authors, one of her presentations, Contemplation of the Phoenix in Flight by Jill Sharon Kimmelman. Here it is.
Okay. Contemplation of a Phoenix in Flight for Annette. On the wings of doves you fly. In freedom you have found an extraordinary voice. Celebration of your journey's path is freedom defined. In the stillness of tranquility, your words returned. A whisper within your heart, at first you denied. Incessant, gentle nudges you avoided, until you could no more deny those words, in those impassioned pleas, then you could stop your heart from beating, your lungs from breathing, your pen from bleeding. Every brilliant word crafted sonnets and stanzas, awaited, welcomed, inspiration accepted. Your declaration, drafted in tears while haunted by fears, now an affirmation of strangers everywhere. Celebrate freedom earned, blessings of lessons learned. Like the lotus, your greatest gifts grew greater in the ooze of mud. You are a magnificent phoenix with plumes of every hue, the grandest of dreams now yours to pursue. A vibrant blossom ablaze with fiery gems, your magical words. A beautiful phoenix soaring, tall, strong, proud, no doubt at all. Most magnificent of birds, most beautiful of all.
World Inkers Monthly magazine is a fine source for your literary interests. It's an all-source magazine with poetry, prose, and essays and articles, as well as interviews. It's all full-color art and photography from a variety of voices and artists. You will find this magazine entertaining. This is an all-purpose readership, and we are looking for new voices. This sleek, full-color edition of World Inkers Monthly magazine will be something pleasant for your eyes as well as for your mind. And if we're looking for authors for one book promotion in the magazine, if you're a business, we want to promote your business. You may submit your book reviews, your academic or non-academic articles on the humanities and the arts, as well as your literary writing and creative output to publication.worldinkers@gmail.com. World Inkers Monthly Magazine does not spare any ink. Keep inking for World Inkers Monthly Magazine. I want to remind our viewers that you can subscribe to our channel while you're watching here, and also World Inkers Monthly Magazine special Women's International Month is coming up pretty soon here in the next few days. We're going to be releasing that. It's a little late, but we're going to get it out there. So we're going to listen to some of Lisa's poetry, if she has some prepared for now, to go ahead and read a couple of poems of hers to get an idea of her style and her poetic technique.
Okay, Dustin, thank you. Yes, this is a poem that's going to come out in my book. I have a book coming out in August called Caring for Souls. And this is Heart to Hands. As you lay in the hospital bed, I was lost. You were jaundiced, dying, and needing care. You looked into my eyes. My feet are cold. Gently placing my hands on your feet, feeling the thin parchment like skin, and observing the golden glow of jaundice, mixing Vaseline with hospital lotion, then warming the mixture in my hands. Massaging your soles, arches and rounding to the dorsum, such warmth flows, energy exchanges. Stretching each toe, kneading the pads, some pop. Our smiling eyes connect as softness pervades. Warming your fuzzy slippers on the heater, scrunching and easing them on your warm, softened feet. Just standing with hands on your covered feet, having a private moment. Energy pouring from my hands and exchanging hearts. How I wish that moment would heal you, even if a new day meant another treatment. Each day is the chance to show you how much I love you. I do, and you love me too. Words did not have to be said. I knew it when you looked at me and said, my feet are cold.
I like the textures and the tactile side of that poem. Especially like the very human side of the process going on. I mean, you get a real good captured image of what's happening there, and the feelings that are being conveyed within the prospect of what's happening. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's actually based on my caring for someone who was dying, and I wrote a few poems around that whole process, and that was one of them.
Wow. It's very intriguing, and it's good to capture the moment and kind of, a way of processing it as well as understanding what's going on in front of you, kind of thing. Very good.
Thank you.
Would you like to read another one?
Sure. This is also based on a true story. It's called He Knew Where to Find Home. Shannon slept alone, staying in the shed by the back porch. This was his home. He knew the evening sounds were there for solace. He knew they were there to offer him company. And yet alone he slept and had this thing, where comfort found him. When life was closing inward, when voices called his name, he had a place to go where life kept him alive. And he did not know why he breathed, not the gin nor vodka, not the burn of drugging, not his mother, who breathed for his life. It was nothing, and it was everything that moved back and forth into his tired soul. Now, when he walks by, there is no imprint of souls, because now he walks in the twilight of the night and lives on the other side, finding his final resting place, his home.
It's very much a part of like capturing the human condition and people's own doubts and resignations. That's what I see in that piece. Very nice. I remember you mentioning earlier in the program that you like to read a lot of memoirs, and I think that kind of converges into your poetry quite a bit.
It does. It does.
That's very interesting. I'll let my phone ring as it's going on right now, and I'll let it stop, and then I'll let you read another poem.
Okay.
Watching World Inkers Network, guys. Sorry about the phone distraction, but we'll let that ring here, and then we'll go on with the program. Okay, thank you, phone, for stopping now. So if you'd like to read one more poem, sorry about that.
I'll be glad to. Thank you. This was actually nominated for the Pushcart Prize.
Excellent.
This is called Silence. It was published by Susie Box. The morphine drip is shielded, hidden from plain sight, tucked away in her nest, snuggled under fresh covers. No pain, no worries, just solemn slumber. Taking a cue from her, I push my recliner close to her bed. I press my body close to her side. Taking her hand, I close my eyes and enjoy restful slumber. This is the supreme closeness we need. Hers to know she's not alone. Assurance as she grasps my hand snugly, as much as I grasp hers. And rest we must. Her for relief of pain, me for energy restoration, and we sleep.
Interesting. Well, congratulations on the pushcart with that. That's a very lovely poem, very intimate.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, when you're doing your publishing, I'm curious, like, what is your process like? What steps do you take to manage things carefully? Because it is a lot of work to put a book together, and it doesn't seem like there's any financial reward. There's just the sheer joy of putting something in the world that wasn't there before. And so what is your process like? What kind of order do you go through, and how do you maintain that order?
Well, I keep, of course, a lot of files. I have a file for everything, and I have printed out manuscripts that I keep a file for each one. Mm-hmm. I keep an accounting system. I'm fortunate to have a CPA in my household, so that makes it a little bit easier too to help me with that for taxes and such. And I treat each manuscript. I don't like to mix up things. I don't like work on 3 manuscripts in one day. I try to focus on one at a time. Mm-hmm. Less chance of mistakes. Mm-hmm. I read through, of course, a manuscript completely before I accept it. And I've had some where I've not accepted the entire manuscript, where they say, I'll accept this, these are great, but maybe 3 or 4 poems here that I don't think fit. But if we could work with you taking those out, we could go ahead and move forward, because the rest of it's great. So I do that, which is probably something that is very unusual for some people. Like, if they don't like a manuscript, they don't like it and throw it. But I try to give people a chance to mm-hmm. Have their work published. So there's no sense in throwing out the whole thing if there's 4 poems that don't work. They might work in another manuscript. They just don't maybe work in that one. And so I go through with detail, and I go through with my pen, and I mark it up, with things that I think could be maybe changed a little bit or adjusted a little bit. Then I go take it through the more of the physical testing process with the reviewer to make sure everything looks okay. And then after I do all of that, then I send the manuscript to the writer to say, these are some things that I'd like you to take a look at more closely. And 9 times out of 10, they agree that something needs to be polished or changed a little bit, tweak it, A lot of it's usually either spelling or punctuation, but when poetry, that's always kind of iffy anyway. So if they can stand a reason that why it's that way, then we can reach an agreement on that. And so once they've gone through it and then given me their feedback, I go back through it again to make sure everything looks okay. I print it out again, look over it again, and make sure I didn't miss something before. And if I find anything that needs to be polished up, then I go back to them and say, found this a little, here and there. There are times when I'll do a Zoom session and go through a manuscript, go through the different areas of concern. And then after we've come to an agreement, okay, this is ready to move forward on, we work on, and we're behind the scenes, this is already going on, book cover. I will design a book cover if someone doesn't have a design, and some people prefer to use a designer. Most of the book covers are ones I've, designed or co-designed with somebody else. And then, I just start putting things together, and then we still go through the book page by page after everything's put together, and we work on pieces that are missing and all of that. We put it all together, and we sit down, we have a Zoom, and we go through every page of the book, make sure. And invariably there'll be something that got missed. And so it's important. It's like you edit, you proofread, you proofread, so you go for a manuscript several times before it's like considered done. And I always have that expression, stick a fork in it, it's done. And, so then I don't want to touch it anymore. Let's just get this book finished. And then you go through and you get the proof. And you go through the proof page by page with the author, and we're going to sit there and either do a Zoom or we'll do it over a phone, and we'll go through each page, and we first do them independently and earmark anything, and then we meet usually over the phone and go through each page, make sure everything's just perfect, and if there's any changes need to be made, then I go through and update all of that and send it back through. Keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to do that again. We've been pretty fortunate that I've only had one that I've had to send back through a couple of times to get it just right. So, and then with a couple of other people, with Zan and with Jill's book, we did a lot of pictures. So I put graphics together to work on the design, to get all of those pictures within the book, which you'll be getting one of them pretty soon. Since you were fortunate to win a copy of Jill's, you'll see all the pictures inside and what we did with those. So I work with Adobe and Canva and design majority of the pictures that go inside of the book.
Interesting. So it really is a long process. A lot of times it can be grueling. What would you like to say in conclusion of the program to our viewers today?
Well, I would say that if you are a writer, don't be afraid to submit your work to publications. So many people are scared to send things out, and you'll either get a yes or a no. I belong to a group that the goal is to get 100 rejections, So, hey, you can paper your walls with rejections if you want to. You can do whatever you want with them, but you learn from those. You learn from your rejections. And so don't be afraid of being rejected, because guess what? You might also get accepted. So don't be afraid to put your best foot out there and try it. You might be surprised. Absolutely.
So would you like to say any thank yous or give any shout outs to friends and family supporters at the end here?
Well, I'm grateful to you, Dustin, for having me on here today. And I'm also grateful to all the wonderful people that trust me with their work, with Jill Sharon Kimmelman, LaVon Robinson, Sita Gaia, Zan Johns, the upcoming books that are coming out. I'm so excited because none of them are the same. There's no two books alike, and I just love that variety. So I'm very grateful for people trusting me with their work. I'm also very grateful to the Garden of Neuro for entrusting me to teach poetry courses and to be in charge of the poetry circle. And, it's an honor to be entrusted to do that kind of work. So I'm very grateful. And of course, my family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. It's been pleasant talking with you.
Thank you.
So we'll have, if you have any other people that would like to be invited on, then just let them know and pass my information on. So we'll love to have them on the program.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been watching World Anchors Network in episode 294, reaching up to 300 episodes now. So if you want to support us, I'll put our banner up here, paypal.me/NYParrot. That's for financial support for anybody out there who would like to donate to the program. Any amount will be appreciated. We'll give you a shout out on the program, even if you would like to do that. So thank you. Anybody out there who has donated in the past. And the paypal.me/NYParrot. And then you can get in touch with me, Dustin Pickering, if you want to be on the show at literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. And that's, you want to send a paragraph bio, a headshot, and some samples of your writing to that email, literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. And remember, pretty soon here we'll have World Inkers Monthly Magazine will be out, and we'll love to have some more work in the next edition. In April, I believe mental health is going to be the subject of concern, the topic, our theme. So if you have any work on that theme, go ahead and start sending it my way. And remember, you can subscribe, like, share, and comment on our materials. If you like what you're reading, what you're viewing, just give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family and other writers. And feel free to subscribe to the YouTube while you're watching right now. And we'd love to have you guys on the show sometime. So just get in touch with me again, literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. And it's been an excellent show with Lisa today. Go back and watch it again if you missed it. And just keep up the good work, guys. And I'm gonna put up my banner here, literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. And remember, if you are, in the process of doing a project or you're writing right now and you haven't been able to get it finished, just get it finished. Go out there, get to writing. World Inkers Network. Thank you so much for joining us today and watching. Hey, sports fans! New York Parrot has come out with a great new show for you guys, Sports with Rich. Broadcast time 10 p.m. Tuesday evening. Rich Mancuso with Robert Rizzo as a co-host. Sports with Rich is captivating, informative, and entertaining, and it will pertain to all American sports such as soccer, football, basketball, baseball, athletics, wrestling, you name it. Get rich information from Rich Mancuso on Sports with Rich. Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the Parrot. Parrot TV.